And this is a surprising fight for the second fight of the night. I felt like the UFC was trying to give Charles Johnson a little bit of a push. So they just threw him on the second fight of the night, which is odd to me. But we got Charles Johnson taking on Jimmy Flick. And if that name sounds somewhat familiar to you, Jimmy Flick's been around for a while. He took 2 years off. He retired 2 years ago. Retired. Not an injury, retired. Talked about, it was actually a bizarre retirement. Something about his relationship with his dad. Like he doesn't get along with his dad anymore because of fighting. Yeah. I forget what it was, but I assume he's figured all that out because he's back now. He's 16-5 overall. He's 4-1 in his last 5, and he's coming out of retirement. Charles Johnson, 12-3 overall, 4-1 in his last 5. He's coming off his first UFC win, and that wasn't that long ago. That was over Zhalgas Zhumagulov in an interesting fight where a lot of people thought maybe Charles Johnson should have lost, and he was just he got taken down, he got walked down. But then he started to hit a rhythm. It was a very slow start. He basically gave up that first round. But then he hit a rhythm. When he hit a rhythm, he looked pretty good. Like very smooth, fluid. But what's interesting about this fight, we just talked about last fight and the bizarre odds in that fight. This one has had a wild swing. Charles Johnson opened up at -120, very slight favorite. He flew to -500. There are people out there that spent -450 and loved him at that. And then that came whipping back, and now he's at -305. This feels appropriate. Essentially a 3-1 favorite over a guy that came back after 2 years. This feels -500 did not feel appropriate. That was way too wide because Jimmy Flick is good. He's been gone for a couple of years, but he's a very well-rounded guy. Mostly a grappler, though, and he'll throw up some Hail Mary submissions. He caught Cody Durden kicked. He caught that kick and then just threw up a flying triangle. It was wild. It was wild. He's willing to take risks. Solid grappler. Charles Johnson has some power, but he's a busy boxer. He's got some solid kicks. He's really just a cardio machine with pressure, confidence, and he will outstrike you once he starts to hit that flow. But he's not going to come out there and take your head off in one shot. Jimmy Flick, the far more dangerous fighter. I do think Charles Johnson gets it done. You don't just leave for 2 years full-blown retired, meaning might not be training, might not be doing those things. He full-on retired. You don't just come back after 2 years and, somebody like Charles Johnson, that well-rounded, good enough to not get taken down, good enough to not get submitted. I think Jimmy Flick's going to have a little bit of a tough time. Charles Johnson should get this done to 3-1 odds. Makes sense to me. Charlie's the pick. What do you think, Jakey boy?
Yeah, here's what I'll say about Charles Johnson, and that is the fact that, yes, he is the better, well-rounded fighter. On the ground, I think that Jimmy Flick is definitely the more dangerous guy and the better grappler. And we always go back to the Makayev fight, right? And a lot of the people are going to be like, oh, Makayev did not finish Charles Johnson, so how can Jimmy Flick finish Charles Johnson? Because Makayev was, I don't know what he was, -500, -600, something crazy in that fight versus the short notice UFC debut of Charles Johnson. And for good reason. He pretty much dominated that fight, but he didn't submit him. In that fight, Charles Johnson knew what the game plan was. He knew that he was the underdog. He didn't want to come in the UFC debut and get finished. So he was defensive, right? Everything he was doing was make sure I don't get submitted. I can get taken down. I'll get back to my feet. But as I'm getting back to my feet, I don't want to get submitted. Against a guy like Jimmy Flick, where he is the big favorite, things could be a lot different. If Jimmy Flick maybe shoots a takedown and is working towards his back, Charles Johnson might not take him as seriously as he would like a guy Makayev, because this is a big favorite, 2 years off. What is this guy? What is this guy Jimmy Flick? What kind of name is that? What is he going to do to me? That's how I would think if I was Charles Johnson. And to double down on that point, you kind of saw that attitude in the Zhalgas fight. He was kind of just dancing around, taking his time in a very, very close fight. A lot of people thought he lost that fight. And then to put the cherry on top, afterwards he said, oh, I thought I won all 3 rounds. It's like, so this guy is like, I understand cocky, I understand confidence, but at some point you have to be real, especially in a fight. In that Zhalgas fight, he was not real with himself. He just thought he was dominating the fight. Even afterwards, he wasn't real with himself. So if this comes to a point where this fight is all of a sudden close, maybe Flick is able to get a takedown, get his back, control him, and it's a 1-1 going in the third round, I can't trust Charles Johnson. He's going to be thinking he won the fight. So yes, Charles Johnson's a better overall fighter. Yes, he should win this fight. But if there's a weird grappling exchange, I think Flick can find a submission, even though Makayev didn't. If it's a close fight, I think Flick could win a weird decision. So I am not even putting -3 whatever money on Charles Johnson. I think it should be, I think Donnie said in the chat, it should be a -200, -175 is where I would put Charles Johnson because I can't really trust him. But he is the better overall fighter. Jimmy Flick's had a long layoff. Become a premium member because I put some bets on Jimmy Flick.
Speaking of premium membership, it's only $10 a month. It unlocks all of our bets. I lost count of how many units we have going because props dropped yesterday. And we went wild, not wild like reckless, wild like attacked some of those prop bets early. Those all dropped, plus future bets. UFC 283 is next week. I got a bunch of money lines on that card. You unlock all those bets, the DraftKings optimizer, and so much more for freaking $2.50 a week. Grow up. What are you doing with your life? You don't have $2.50 a week, even if it's just to support us. But premium membership unlocks everything. Speaking of, Quentin Lazenby, $2. Back to it, like the stream. Appreciate it. I love what a supportive, here's a couple of bucks, thank you very much, and asking people to like the stream. It doesn't get better than that. What?
Oh, it doesn't show up on your end. He gifted a membership as well to Alberto B. Got a nice little membership. He said thank you, and Alberto with Quint with the smiley face. Quint's a Discord mod too. Join the Discord, guys. It's a completely free Discord.
Free.
We have a lot of
100%
we have a lot of fun in there. We're always talking fights and a lot of other stuff. So join the Discord and hang out. And then we get all the updates too.
Yeah, the Discord is 100% free. Premium members get the added perk of some premium channels in there.
Yep.
You can get some alerts to your phone, but the Discord's free. You can go there, yuck it up, share, all that stuff. DraftKings, $9,000 for Charles Johnson. Not for me. I'm not going to spend that on Charlie. I don't think you will as well.
No, and I can see maybe a TKO late. I don't think he's going to knock him out, but he has a good volume striker once he gets going, and who knows how Jimmy Flick's going to look. But yeah, that's way too expensive for me.
Yeah, I think $9,000 is a lot of money. You need a stoppage there, right? And I don't think you need a stoppage or a million takedowns. He's not a takedown guy, so you're not going to get those points. It's going to be a bunch of jabs and a bunch of stuff like that because I don't think he'll get the stoppage. He does have power, very good striker, but Jimmy Flick's a pretty tough guy. Monkey Knife Fight strike line 70-37. That feels like a very appropriate line. Charles Johnson's a busy guy once he gets going. Jimmy Flick's typically a low volume guy. I don't know what we're going to see after a few years away. I think it's a more. I think we end up in, I don't want to say a firefight because I don't think it's going to be that close, but I think they end up with a bunch of swinging, a bunch of touching, a bunch of going. First card of the year, Jimmy Flick coming back. 37, this is total strikes, not significant. We're talking a little more than 10 around. That's nothing. I do think this goes the distance. So I would do more with Monkey Knife Fight. You agree with that?
Yeah, I think it's probably more. The 70 does worry me a little bit because sometimes Charles, he is kind of a pressure guy, but sometimes he is, like I said, he just plays it too cool where he's just like, dun, 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 and doesn't really throw strikes. So it's almost better if he's not winning. If he's winning the fight, I think he throws less because he's like kind of playing it off. But if he's not winning, he might be forced to it. So long-winded answer, more.
He did step up here on, I don't want to say on short notice because it's not short notice, but this is a very quick turnaround for him. He may be feeling that last fight and the criticism that came with it. He wants to come in, make a point.
Like
so anyway,
you want the main event.
You want to check out Monkey Knife Fight? WeOwnPicks.com/MKF. They will instantly match your deposit. So you give them 20, they'll give you 20. Give them 100, they'll give you 100. Take the free money, play some of these lines, including this one.